Welcome to the August 27th OpenZFS production user call. We have Andrew, Stu, Jan, Alexander, Eva, and myself, Michael, so far, and I have lots of news regarding the OpenZFS User and Developer Summit in October. Welcome Clara Systems as a sponsor. They are joining Perforce, Amazon Web Services, Digital Glue, hello Stu, OS Nexus, TrueNAS, and Capital Auto Group in Salem, Oregon, of all people. And I'm pleased to report that collectively people are back at their desks and things are moving very quickly for the event. Everyone's been like on camping, on holiday, you name it. And I have been a good boy and I've submitted all sponsorship contracts, artwork requests, brochure requests, event codes for people to register with. Stu, hopefully you received yours. And I've also reached out to the kitchen crew and we discussed that a tiny bit before the recording. And for those who have been following this document, I cleaned up the 2024 topics and moved them to their own minutes page in Q4, linked at the top. If anyone has seen Santi, ¿Dónde está Santi? I'd love to talk to Santi A, who provided invaluable help last year at the summit. I've emailed him a few times, and as organizers, I think we briefly had phone numbers for everyone, but I can't find that. If you have it, please reach out. He's awesome. And let's see, just a broad reminder, as FreeBSD 15 is coming, Martin kindly made some updated packages so that you can perhaps try newer OpenZFS on an existing older system or latest on latest, you name it, that should be a documented process. And I'd like to get to summit topics. I hope for this event to be as publicly planned as possible, as reasonable, as kind within the limits of, say, privacy, etc. So this is your event, this is your planning, and let's see. That said, I want to touch on one topic in focus, but later we'll go through all of the individual topics. But welcome back, Eva. It sounds like you have a new adventure, and you provided a link to that. Could you tell us about what you're doing there and how it relates to ZFS?
Sure. Okay.
Awesome.
So there's a second link there too.
And if you want to share something, go for it.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, Cerebras makes small supercomputers that are clustered together to make larger supercomputers. And these are on the third generation. They are currently present in basically every research lab, government, nuclear, whatever, everything, military, etc. That you can put an important sort of moniker on, right? So Lawrence Livermore has them, Oak Ridge, all the good places. Cerebras is working on version 4 of this system, which is coming out later next year. And they're roughly 16 rack units each. And they have about 1 million cores. And are currently pushing several thousand tokens per second for all of the open source models, which is the fastest of any of the inference providers. A lot of the customers that we have are standard industry names as well. It's not limited to supercomputing top 500 type of places. There's a lot of medical research going on with these systems. Basically, anything that has a lot of data to crunch and simulate, you're probably going to see these somewhere in the background, but it's not a very well-known name. In any case, so one of the things that we're focused on right now is with prompt caching. And much like caching in any other realm of technology, CFS, for example, or databases, if you're not caching stuff, then you're repeating every execution every time. And so that gets expensive and slows things down and all that kind of stuff. So, so the clusters up until now have not had prompt caching as a integrated feature. And there's reasons for that that are not terribly interesting. But in any case, so it's now a thing. And the project that I'm working on that's specific to CFS is to take the prompt caching that we do on the wafer and within the existing compute nodes and disaggregating that prompt cache storage onto a network that's RDMA based, made up of anywhere from tens to hundreds of nodes. And each node is full of SLC drives, many terabytes of DRAM. And if we had been doing this several years ago, those would also have Optane non-volatile DIMMs, but Intel is terrible at marketing, and so we don't. So in any case, the networked RDMA prompt cache and storage is a tiered structure, which is very similar to the way that ZFS does, L1 ARC, L2, and so forth. And my intention with one of the proof of concept designs that I'm working on is to leverage ZFS on a per node basis for that storage network. Each node then has access to all of its SLC drives and to 800 gigs of Rocky version 2 RDMA-enabled networking space. Each of the nodes then go connect to a spine leaf architecture, and those eventually make their way over to the Cerebras compute clusters. So one of the things that's challenging about using ZFS in this context, but also one of the reasons why I've chosen to go this direction based on other market available file systems, is that it's already doing tiering, and it's already doing caching correctly, and it's already doing access controls, and it has all of the features that are necessary for all of these complicated systems and military installations and places that do research for vaccines. Like it's all over the place. So there's compliance aspects that are built into ZFS that are not shared on other file systems that do network-based RDMA transfers. And so in the proof of concept, my goal is to take ZFS, use that on the per node basis, and then have a separate layer that operates one step upwards in between that and the compute nodes that tracks where each chunk of data is spread out across this massive network of RDMA ZFS nodes. So that part doesn't exist, but will hopefully soon, and is in development. So if anyone has thought, I would really love ZFS to be able to work on a high availability clustered node sort of design, kind of like how Ceph does things, and there's multi-masters, and we don't have to worry about using CoroSync or Heartbeat or any of those other tools, then I share your interest and also frustration from having to do that in the past. While there are companies, Oracle, that we won't get into too much, they have multi-node ZFS controllers with many trays and shelves and so forth underneath those multiple heads. And that provides high availability and so forth, and that's great. And that's repeatable, it's not a new thing. Not to excuse my voice, I have caught the COVID. But in any case, expanding those controller nodes out into the hundreds, as opposed to just a small handful, to my understanding, has not been done by any open source project or any vendors that provide that type of functionality with ZFS without a very large price tag. So my proof of concept is to build that and then potentially integrate it into the Cerebras clusters.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Jan has his hand up, but I have some super quick points of order. One was that thousands of tokens per second or minute or what?
Per second. Yep.
Thank you. Also, I trust you're allowed to talk about all this because that is brilliantly open. And a third small point, we dove into clustering on Tuesday's Jail and Zones call. So maybe check out that recording, which went up yesterday. Jan, you have questions. What you got?
The first question is, do you plan to kind of bypass caching and scheduling with direct I/O, or do you want to do the hard work and actually make ZFS perform appropriately with full-flash NVMe arrays?
So in this case, it would be having CFS do the same standard process that it does with L1, L2, and then we're probably not going to focus on having any Z-logs, any special devices like that at first. Those may come later. But effectively, the design of this is that it's contingent on the type of storage that is coming through the system, right? So if one loses an entire cached prompt, the world is not going to catch on fire. And if the prompt is chunked up into, say, 1,000 different pieces, and those live on many different nodes, and then something happens with the checksumming system, or there's some sort of corruption, then all of those chunks just get thrown in the trash, disregarded, whatever, evicted, and you move on, right? So the data redundancy aspect is important, but this is not financial services as a comparative, right? So leveraging ZFS and its tiered structure is a benefit for this type of architecture.
Because you mentioned multiple controllers or heads, if you want to call them that, for shared storage. So are you going the route of NVMe over fabrics and then kind of keeping a warm cache somewhere, or do you actually
Yes,
want
exactly.
to do the hard work, which so far everybody has bugged at, and try to make ZFS into a real cluster file system along the lines of GFS or Ceph?
Right. So there are two directions to go in that sense, and the direction that is ultimately decided on will be dependent on the budget that comes next year as far as engineering resources. So my proposal will be to design two different methods of that system. You described, from a high level, kind of both of those options. But changing the way that ZFS works at a fundamental level so it looks more like Ceph is not something I'm terribly interested in doing. It would also be challenging to hire enough people to do that within the time constraints that would be necessary to roll this out. And due to the nature of the network storage in the first place, where we are using NVMe over Fabric and RDMA transfers, and those transfers are already occurring between other parts of the clustered system that are not about ZFS. That allows us to hook into those data pipelines that are already going on.
What does your target RDMA infrastructure look like from a network standpoint?
It's all Rocky's version 2.
Right, I mean more, is it Cisco, Arista, FS, whatever?
It is a mix of Arista and Juniper.
Yeah.
Other questions? I need to mute for just a second.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is an ongoing project. I'll be working on this at least till through the end of the year, but past that as well. So doing storage architecture for this type of environment is, well, obviously it's exciting. There's a lot of problems to solve that have not yet been solved. So there's different companies making vastly different approaches to how all of this gets accomplished. So it's my intention to involve ZFS as much as it is technically prudent to do so.
I couldn't help but get an open source vibe from you. Are there established policies or goals relating to the openness of all of this?
Yes, we do have open source policies.
Are they community friendly ones?
They are, and
Awesome.
I can share those at a later date. Yep.
Okay, no worries. 'Cause, at Fosse, the phrase rug pull came up quite a bit, where,
Mm.
gee, company offers attractive thing and then it gets some traction, but not mass deployment. And someone thinks, oh, that's good enough. Let's just stick it to everyone. So if this openness continues, that is fantastic. And I think the fact that you're able to talk about it in the first place is huge progress. How can we collectively help? This forum, for lack of a better term, this platform is obviously open to you, and we welcome you. Uh, are there technological corners of this that need brainstorming? Because we, again, had a fantastic discussion right along those lines with DCH, who's done his share of clustering, and there are papers mentioned and comments like, you can't get around the maths involved. There's no easy button. There's no shortcut to getting this right. So one, check out that recording. Two, where else are these discussions taking place? What are the examples that you want to follow if you don't want to follow Ceph's model? What's it look like, or you hope it to look like?
Yeah, so there is a very large report that I've been working on that I unfortunately cannot share at the moment.
No
But
worries.
it does a pretty deep analysis on all of the other vendors,
Fantastic.
storage vendors and so
Ooh.
forth. And so I've been working on that for a couple of months now, so it's pretty involved.
Oh
Um,
my, don't tease
but
us. That's okay. Continue.
I'll ask if that can be shared later. But
Okay, cool.
in any case, before I started talking about this part, and you were scrolling through the document, I noticed that, we were doing, we had a bunch of discussions around benchmarking, standardizations, and then there's the efforts that you and I were working on earlier in the year.
Yes, do tell.
So that period of the infrastructure design is just starting in about a week or two.
Oh my, okay.
So most of it is FIO based, which is not a surprise.
Shocker,
This is,
yes.
of course, yeah, wow. And then most of the nodes involved in the storage in this whole thing are Linux, although we do have TrueNAS involved
Okay.
pretty substantially. But that's not on the prompt caching side, that's for general storage. And all of these aspects of the storage environments are things that I have to test and sign off on and evaluate and improve and so forth. Just owning the life cycle of things. So if you and I or others at the in the community would like to start working on more standardized testing processes involving FIO, involving other tools and so forth, it's one thing to make this product for a company and get a paycheck and be able to eat food and stuff, but being able to give back to the community as a whole is fairly critical. And I strongly think that having standardized benchmarks is one of the areas that not just CFS but open source on the whole is kind of lacking. There's a lot of reinvented wheels, and there's a lot of FIO configurations that are like, this is the good one. And sure, it's probably the good one for the specific thing that it was designed for, but it's such a flexible, even by design of its definition, flexible, IO testing tool that we don't have test suites that anyone ever really agrees on as a way to standardize evaluations across different platforms. So that would be pretty cool if we could start standardizing that. Not just with FIO, but also with the traces that you and I were discussing
Yep.
back in November,
Yep.
I think.
That
Yes.
hasn't gone anywhere, and I even have that document handy. In fact, it's like 2 tabs away. Keep painting that picture, because now's the time to identify what's missing, to identify who genuinely cares, and how we can leverage the looming deadline of the summit, where we want to demonstrate that we've moved the needle rather, ever so slightly forward. So actually, no, I'll jump right to it. Go ahead, Stu.
And Eva is much more articulate than I was doing it last year. So
Oh, sometimes maybe. I've got my bumbling to do sometimes.
Uh, you're doing
And
great. So here we go. Anyone with the link is an editor. This is wide open. Here is the document where Eva and I just started brain dumping and researching, and I found some amazing resources where, for example, a simple GitHub repo, it's like, here's a concise idea of what a web server load looks like. Here's what this looks like. It may not be perfect, but it conveys the concept beautifully. Uh, the doc, I'll just put that there. First, I'll even put it in chat for those who are watching along, who are in the call right now. So here is the active doc. I showed it briefly, but at this, again, at this very early stage, well, this repeat organizational stage, let's just keep painting that picture. And this was a quotation from before that I repeated earlier, 1,000%. We seem to be in strong agreement on that. And if that's a topic or two at the summit, I am all for it, as long as we keep it to a ZFS uh, environment. And you're welcome to check out my San Francisco Summit talk with Jorgen about benchmarking ZFS across multiple OSs, because ZFS is rather portable. It's extremely portable. It's only beaten by like
to that
FAT32. Go ahead, Andrew. I'll shut up.
and to that note, as I mean, it mentions in here, it's older, it's an older hardware, but I have a machine specifically set up that I can swap out um, the Lumos, uh, Proxmox, and OmniOS for to test across all of them to see what happens. So if I've got a standardized set of tests, I can run them. And so I really do want a standardized set of tests so I can run those and start getting a better idea of what things look like.
Okay, and I can do the same on my aging Z220 V2 lab, where I can spin up like 8 of them, and that was the focus way back when, which is, of course, not adequately representing a 256 core AMD 64 server, but at least it allows for apples to apples on hardware. All the same RAM, all the same CPU. So I'm in. I'm still in. Stu, you work for an awesome vendor and sponsor. Do you have any internal tools that would make you shine and be excellent PR by sharing?
No,
Okay, and it sounds like you need them, eh?
no. The ones that were discussed again last year when we
Yep.
were trying to sort around the D-RAID versus regular, or quote regular.
Mm-hmm.
Um, those were the tools that started that very good sideways discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Why we don't have, this specific, hey, this is our industry as a collective ZFS FIO test format. So you can compare TrueNAS versus us versus anybody else, hardware to hardware, and say, yes, this is recognized versus, oh, it's fast, or it can do this many concurrent video edits at the same time, whatever.
Keep the marketing department out of the discussion.
Right. This is techie that can feed the marketing, not the other way around.
Bingo. Yes. Wag the dog. So I'm looking at your slides from that, which I'm happy to do. Can you believe I'm actually organized? It's so weird. I'm looking at your slides. Did they make it to your slides? And I can share that to everyone.
The D-RAID comparison did, if I remember right.
Let me do that as a.
Does that have
okay.
the FIO and whatever other test I ran during it?
Oh, then hold tight. Let me put a link in here and open that sucker up. I have not been this organized in a very long time. Thank you, client progress. Thank you, the weather making it impossible to sleep. Thank you, caffeine. Thank you, all kinds of things. So, it jumped to the slide I was on. How sweet. If I do a search for FIO, let's see what comes up. FIO, 0 of 12. FIO test. Okay, Stu, is that what you're talking about?
Yep.
Ooh.
Those were the samples that we were running as the side-by-side comparison off the same.
Oh, what just
Yep.
let's try that again. I take it you had consistent hardware and consistent software. Is that vaguely accurate?
Yes.
That's a great start right there. Okay, I will update the link to be exactly that slide. Edit. Oh,
And then whatever was recorded was when we went on the tangent of
yes.
why we need exactly what Eva was eloquently saying about the real benchmarks and real workloads, because managing a whole lot of Excel files versus video files versus security images, it's a completely separate conversation.
Yes. Okay. YouTube. I will try to dig that up as we speak because again, I'm
And it
cooking
might have
with
been
gas.
it might have been in one of the other ones too. That's kind of blending together after 10 months. So
Cool. Yeah. Well, fortunately, they are
I
reasonably well
explicitly
advanced.
remember talking about it ad nauseum. So
Cool. Let's see. OpenZFS.
it was either Saturday or Monday because I wasn't there on Sunday.
No worries. Here is I'm dropping the channel in the chat just so we can get started and parallelize this. But if we go to playlists, I can probably grab the event 2024 full day. Okay. Oh, it's going to start playing and make me sad. Okay, so here's the playlist. Welcome everyone. I don't want to hear myself. We can drill into that. So, Ava, is there a day of the week that is uniquely open for you to discuss
For
these things?
Because
Because
I
previously we
happen to
discussed meeting a little
have,
early before these calls, but anyway.
yeah, my schedule with the last job was not great. So I have an online scheduler and I will send it to you.
Okay, cool.
So it's more about like kind of your
Somehow
whatever works for you the most part. But the sooner we get that scheduled as a repeating element, the less likely it is to get overwritten by other people and other projects and vendors that are coming up soon.
Amen. Okay, good to hear. And you're now on the West Coast, are you not? Like a few of us.
I am, yeah,
Awesome.
directly
Cool.
10
Yes,
minutes of walking from the office, in fact.
that
So,
is awesome. Okay, where am I trying? Thank you, YouTube autoplay. It just okay, we're gonna put that recordings. Here we go. I will put the entire playlist just so that it's a start for those who are following along. Okay. Well, thank you so much. That is a fantastic start on a topic. Anything else related to that, or shall we move on? I'm inspired. Okay, so I will actually make this bright red. That got some very good support today. And a little earlier, I cornered Jan, who was discussing some cool new hardware, and asked you, are you still on? Yes, you're still on, to poke at a follow-up topic, which was both channel programs and libzfs API guarantees. There has indeed been progress since last year. For example, for libzfs, the wonderful Rob Norris did a brilliant blog post on where we stand, because it was something in the back of everyone's head but never quite fleshed out correctly, and then added, I believe, clone support to channel programs. So, Jan, we have to thank and blame you for taking us down this road, but in the big picture, I'd love to, step one, get a clear picture of where we're at, where do we stand, what's been added, what's still missing. You've been quite eloquent on the calls about screaming things like the ability to create and change properties atomically. I will highlight that one because that was a good milestone in previous discussions.
So
So yes, how do we consolidate this into a clear Message of where we stand and to-do list slash wish list.
So I'm no authoritative source on this, but the way I reconstructed the history of ZFS channel programs, uh, large-scale users went down the rabbit hole of abusing ZFS properties for things that weren't intended to be used for, and found out the hard way that especially writing CFS properties is basically one sync for the pool every property change. So effectively, you get one change in each workflow per transaction group you commit. And that means that a lot of workloads became terribly, painfully slow because of all the time we just spent waiting for the transaction group to finish. And with channel programs, you can batch those changes into a single transaction. And then it turns out that a bunch of things which were quite ugly to do with the ioctl interface and were kind of the way they did it before, because that massive mechanism wasn't there to make it less painful. So now we have the channel programs used for a bunch of things within the implementations for recursive operation and so on. And you can use them, for example, to abstract over the problem what happens when you have snapshots with the same name within a dataset tree, which have the same snapshot name, but not the same recursive snapshot create command to create them. So let's say you create a dataset tree, you snapshot it, you create a new dataset in there because you overlooked one you wanted. You snapshot that as well, give it the same name as kind of a tag. And if you now do a recursive send, you're missing that. With channel programs, for example, you can enumerate over that and match by name instead of by history. But what's kind of really lacking is support for changing properties and for creating anything but snapshots. Rob found out when I described this problem that it's very easy to add cloning support compared to the rest of my wish list. So he put in the cloning support, and it's already available in FreeBSD current because based on a development snapshot of OpenZFS right now. But certain properties you are not inherited. For example, the can mount property. So for my use case, I need the ability to create new data sets, which I could kind of fake by cloning from an empty snapshot. It wouldn't be perfect. It would be a bit confusing when you look at the history and so on, but it would work. The problem is I also have to modify properties. And right now from channel programs, you can only modify ZFS user properties. My workaround for that is that I'm kind of splitting my application logic into a three-stage pipeline where I'm giving the desired target state to the first pipeline stage. It feeds those to a ZFS channel program, and the ZFS channel program returns a list of changes which are needed to converge to the desired state. For example, I want this data set to exist with this mount point and so on, and to be a clone of this origin snapshot. And if it exists and has the right origin, nothing needs to change. If it exists but has the has the wrong origin snapshot, I check how much written data there is within it, and if it's below some safety limit, I will destroy it and create it like a few kilobytes or so, under the assumption that, okay, it's only property changes. And if it's over my risk tolerance threshold, like tens of megabytes or whatever, I assume the user mounted the read the supposed read-only clone and put some local modifications in there. Yeah.
Will
Then
we
I
hear about
wrote,
that at EuroBSDCon?
yes.
Great. So stay tuned.
And then the
Or
last stage of the pipeline will run those return values as commands
okay.
to execute the change command list. So at the end, the system stage is converged to the desired state or there's a failure. The problem with this design is that error handling and recovery is a bit harder than it would have to be if I could do it all in ZFS snapshots in ZFS channel programs, because this, intermediate states would never be observable within a channel program. So the really neat kind of property of doing it in a channel program would be that the instantiation of a jail, the way I intend to do it, would be atomic within ZFS, and you wouldn't be able to ever observe a partially created jail or partially converted between the old state and the new state if I change the configuration. Right now, that's observable, and I have to make sure that I can always make progress towards the new configured state.
Okay. That
Clean
said,
up stuff.
please revisit the doc, confirm if I've highlighted in red the wish list items, and please organize them as a clear wish list, with the first one being the cloning, and that was checked off the list.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's exciting. Briefly, I wasn't clear if there is interest in following up on a few of the previous topics, although, of course, there's some overlap. So note that list, but I've taken certain ones and expanded upon them. I guarantee I'm the wrong person, but I'm thinking of doing a PR for FreeBSD. It's always too early or too late or whatever, too late. But to mention, hey, can we have these contrib files? I hope those are correct. There is a discussion from last October, but it sounds like tools like yours and BECTL could simply, without having a full source tree, grab the things they want. If that's something you
So
can
yeah,
help clarify,
thanks to
great.
the way CDDL is non-viral
Yep.
across files, you can just take the headers you need to build, which FreeBSD for some reason does not install out of OpenZFS, put them in a config directory of your application, and build against libzfs and libzfs core successfully on FreeBSD. In my opinion, those headers should be installed. There's no justification for forgetting them. It's just nobody thought of the need to build against it because it's such a supposedly unstable API.
Right. Okay. So the stability of that API was a hot, well-addressed topic at the summit, and if I recall Rod's summary, it's like it's not so bad. Is that, I don't know if that's a technical description, but let's take is there anyone present beyond Jan and myself who are interested in channel programs and libzfs API guarantees? And this links to the slides, so you can catch up on that. Okay.
I'm certainly interested in libzfs stuff.
Got it. And I've not been putting names next to things. So let's do Michael, get that PR. I'll leave that on top. Jan, Michael, Andrew. Cool. And
I would also like to know about that as well.
Excellent, Eva. Okay, so this is a hot topic. I'm going to copy that list just optimistically. When it comes to channel programs, who beyond Jan is interested in that happening? He's definitely a consumer and a very aware FreeBSD consumer. So we've got Michael and Jan. Andrew and Eva, up your alley or not so much?
Channel programs, not as much.
Okay. Eva?
Undecided.
Undecided. Okay, I'll leave it blank, but hopefully you have an epiphany in your proof of concept design that, wait, if channel programs could do these 3 extra steps, this would be so much ridiculously more simple. So I'll leave it at that.
Actually, if if it could help out with a zREPL and I can convince him to embed it, then it suddenly becomes much more interesting.
zREPL, Zelta, or both?
zREPL specifically for me, although
Okay, cool.
Zelta.
Cool. Noted. Well, there's plenty on that topic. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on.
I don't want to
And-
feel like I'm making this exclusive, but I'm saying what affects me.
Cool. Hey,
Does that make sense?
The production user is in the name of the call. So yes,
So,
that's like literally
yeah.
why we're discussing this. Go ahead, Jan.
If we had more capabilities, it would be easier to do stuff like basically we write Zelda as a channel program for the rotation stuff and so on.
Specifically for a lot of the snapshotting stuff, one of the things that I note is that the way it does snapshots right now is not exactly atomic, and it's frustrating.
In zREPL?
Yeah, and they're making a lot of use of holds to kind of stop ZFS from changing underneath them. And whenever you have to do something by hand, you will often have to find all the holes and get rid of them so that you can recover from whenever zREPL has a hiccup.
I'm not super. I don't have a large problem with that. It's rare enough, and I know those quibbles well enough that it's not a big issue. But it's
But you had to think about it.
annoying. It's annoying when snapshots on the same file system end up at different seconds.
Yes.
And I've got some file systems big enough that it happens.
Yeah, it would be really nice if you could do that. And especially with channel programs, you can remove the incentive to create recursive snapshots.
Well, the reason it happens is because they already don't.
Yeah.
So
I know, but the recursive snapshots are kind of cursed because, as I described, when you do then a recursive send of them, it will send the recursive snapshot. But if you created a child data set after the snapshot and create a new snapshot on that child data set with the same name as the recursive snapshot, suddenly what ZFS list-t snapshot will show you by name is not what you will see on the receiving system. So your backup may be incomplete if you try to do a recursive send of the snapshot. Yeah.
I've done my best to paraphrase these. Do check my work. Thank you.
Heck, I guess you
looks
could
good to me.
even do the ZFS retention logic, which snapshots you want to keep. You could just give a policy to a channel program and have it compute it and then apply it. Could probably speed up some iteration, especially when you want to look at user properties like, has this been replicated?
Brilliant. Anything else relating to that replication channel programs and the corner cases that might bite you and the
all the use cases we just sketched out around zREPL should already be possible with the existing API.
the channel programs API?
Yes, you shouldn't need the 2 features I'm still missing for my use case. Because
Well,
I
now.
want to just declare, this is how I want this subtree in my pool to look like. Please make it happen. This kind of declarative storage specification for JETs,
Yeah.
mostly.
Well, you're saying it gets that right, eh? Good. It gets that correct.
What does?
in the more replication context, channel programs are fully adequate as a solution. However, not
I
being
don't see
used,
any
perhaps.
API call you would be missing. So you can read all properties, but I think mounted and mount point. And you should need those. You
Okay.
shouldn't be required to write a non-user property.
I'm going to mute and see who's pounding on the door. Go ahead.
You can already walk the pool. So walk the data sets, walk the snapshots, walk the volumes, bookmarks, and so on. Yeah. I guess finally getting what's patch in so that you can just give ZFS send a socket, especially now that FreeBSD has KTLS, and I think Linux in theory at least has KTLS as well, although I don't know if they have both directions or only transmit. But if you have the ability to give ZFS send a KTLS enabled socket and tell it, please just blast data at that TCP socket with TLS happening in the kernel, that would possibly help people with big pipes like Evil as employer to do secure replication.
What did I miss? You solved it all. Yay. Anything else to
I
note in the
mentioned that one
minutes
of the
there?
things
Yes.
replication tools like zRepl could profit from for big users is to add the ability to give a file descriptor to the ZFS send and receive so that you don't have to copy through a pipe or whatever. And then use a KTLS socket for ZFS send and receive, which would help with big replication jobs
Mm-hmm.
across the data center.
I will say I love the clarity of the pipe send receive, but it also feels like it's relying way too much on a decades old Unix component, and there might be indeed ways to
Um,
be it, I
so
don't know, bypass
nothing,
that.
nothing stops you
And
from piping through something other than SSH.
Mm-hmm.
You
in
could
fairness, the
pipe.
reason we use pipes so much is because they work so well.
I know, but from a performance perspective on large sends across the WAN, are they the optimal mechanism? Like should KTLS
Um,
be a step in that, or should it get back closer to the kernel and
there's a difference.
name it?
KTLS is only a constraint on how you can implement it. That even that must work. The ability to give the kernel a file descriptor to write to, rather than just
Mm.
reading blocks through the hierarchical interface and writing them to a pipe, it's just saving a bunch of context switches. That file descriptor could be a pipe. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. I
Maybe
love
if you
this.
want to replicate locally, it may make total sense to use a pipe to tie ZFS send and receive together locally and just use the pipe buffer.
Cool.
Um,
And to be
yeah,
clear, what Jan just described is something I actually have in production where I'm replicating locally to keep snapshots on spinning media of SSDs.
I have used it to relatively quickly instantiate so-called provisioned jails by just doing a ZFS send
Other way
type
around.
buffer,
Oh, that's
ZFS
why I was
receive,
guessing. Yeah, that made no sense. Cool.
um, and then I can just stream the code image of my jail at like 2 GB a second. So it's quickly copied.
Yep.
It's faster than going through tar pipe tar.
So what's the slight difference in your pipeline to achieve that?
So not pipeline.
Well, everyone pipes from the send
Yes.
receive. Is there
Right
something
now
either in
you're
between or done differently?
it's the way it's implemented. Right now, it just writes to standard out or file.
Okay.
The idea is that if you could tell it the implementation detail you would change is instead of reading blocks from the ZFS device, I think, if I understand correctly, via octets and then writing them to whatever file descriptor you have, you would instead tell the kernel, here's a file descriptor, write directly to that. So you would save the copy each block out into user space only to write it to a file descriptor again. And the way to make full use of this capability, you probably want the ability to dial network connections directly. The trivial one is to just dial a TCP connection to, I don't know, someone crazy enough to run ZFS receive as an INetD service directly. Not that you should do that.
That sounds like a horrible idea.
Yes, it does, but
Exactly.
logically
but
great.
If instead you had a
Yeah,
helper daemon which would kind of work like an SD or S tunnel and take advantage of the fact that you don't have to do a user space copy and copy back for encryption anymore now that at least the FreeBSD and Linux kernel have support for in-kernel TLS encryption. You could have it dial the kind of establish the TCP connection, do the handshaking user space, and then load the key material into the kernel, take advantage of KTLS, which if you have a fancy enough network card may even be offloaded completely off the CPU into the network card at that point. Or you could do something, I don't know, set up on FreeBSD. I don't know how you would do it on Linux because I'm not that familiar with their APIs, but you could set up an IPsec policy on the socket and say, I require IPsec transport mode encryption on that socket. And then whatever key exchange daemon supports that notion of a policy scope on a specific TCP socket would establish the security association for the policy, and you could just throw it again at the TCP connection and potentially offload that to the NIC. That was discussed at BSDCamp that hey, FreeBSD now has support for this kind of transport mode offloading of IPsec processing to the NIC. Which is what you want if you want to go, let's say, to 40 or 100 gig or beyond. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully this red screaming text will inspire future thoughts on the topic. I'd like to get to some of the candidate ideas. Yes?
Have a tier too long didn't read, which is
okay, hold on. Let me start
SSH is a
typing.
bottleneck. We want something faster than piping through SSH for replication.
Okay, note Rod's talk from BSDCan on some of that, and he had a question just, I believe, last week on, and I think it's in there, of like who's dealing with, say, ping times of 35 millisecond or more. Let me do a search on 35, and none of us present had that, but maybe Eva, you're doing that. So found it. This came up. He's looking for real world situations to poke at and may have solutions to help them. If this is you, here's a public service announcement. Is this you, Rod? Boom. Okay, so push the wrong button. Come on.
Rod is looking for people with a certain bandwidth delay product to see which value you need for your maximum TCP window sizes and so on.
Bingo.
So that you can max out your fat and long pipe. Yeah.
Oh, I hope I didn't grab the wrong one, but no worries.
Modernizing the default values. in
I did grab
FreeBSD
them.
for FreeBSD 15, I think.
4. Oh. Raw, there it is. Found it. Okay, so this should be the PSA. Let's hope I have the right text in. Yes, I have the right text in buffer. Woohoo! Cool. Today I am a document ninja. Loving it. Okay, boom. Okay, moving on. Let's just do lightning round on candidate topics and see if it gets a response out of any of you. I think we've pounded that one into position. So candidate topics at the top of the doc, midway. This is coming along regardless if we like it or not, because there's a parallel discussion on a reunion between Illumos ZFS and OpenZFS, and various people are discussing supporting that, and we have a candidate in mind to implement that. I'll just say watch this space, but one point was, hey, why are you closing bugs that are not reproducible when someone very much hit a bug? That's kind of, they're a very vocal person, very scary in terms of OpenZFS. Let's improve that. So I hope at the summit, particularly on the first developer day, we can get to that. That is a perfect segue into the next one. So
I
that's
can,
discuss. Go ahead.
I,
Yes, Alexander.
since Mark invited me to share the honor of Bugmeister with him.
Yes, no kidding. Congratulations. Okay.
Thank you. I've been, had some experience with this, and it's like, so we had to add a needs more information tag. So maybe like they have a not reproducible and they don't have a needs more information, but it's like when you are responsible for a backlog of bugs, and there's like, let's say there's hundreds that you know about, and you're like, maybe some of them you're even just like putting off because it's really inconvenient and you don't have a really clear plan forward, but you you need to spend just a few as short of a time as possible on this issue, and it's like, okay, this is not enough information for me to reproduce this. Like, I'm trying to do whatever else with my life, and I'm a volunteer or like whatever. Like maybe you have a day job, and we added needs more information a long time ago, but
Oh, then what's the new one, if anything? Or
well,
added.
actually, I added a please upstream tag,
Oh, okay. These
but
are
that's kind of aside
added.
from this
Oh, no, not necessarily.
and so but it was I think it's the same kind of thing actually with that. Like we
Please.
added the please upstream tag because it's like I literally have to do this on the toilet or it's not going to get done. You know what I
You have a
mean?
t-shirt out of that, but yes, go ahead.
That's it. We should put that in the t-shirts.
Yeah, we doing this.
Don't use the t-shirt as a toilet, please.
Oh, I didn't say that.
No, like I
Needs
literally
to
need to
get
do this on the
done.
toilet or it won't get done.
Or, oh, sorry, or it won't get done. Or
So that's why I added the please upstream tag, because people will be like, "Oh, it's closed as whatever," and it's like, no, I don't. I type these long, "Hey, thanks so much for your interest in
yeah,
FreeBSD. I really
yeah.
appreciate this. I would love to merge this code, import this code when you get it fixed upstream, but we can't do it here because it's going to make a you know diff in between what we're doing." And it's like, no, like we just made a tag, please upstream. I close it real quick, close 3 of them in the scope of a toilet break, and then I
Oh,
don't
I
get
see what you're saying.
for not doing enough work.
Oh, yeah, okay. And it's a lot. And I've definitely seen situations where, yeah, it's like you're complaining about a FreeBSD port that is way down the chain, and it's an issue that is way up the chain. And yeah, great, we totally feel your pain, but no, this is not the place to fix it.
Yeah, I
Unless
don't I
upstream
don't
is
address
hostile, and that's a mess that we can't address here. Go ahead.
I like usually like people are not so hostile, but it's just like, we wanted to get it like the most efficient thing that we could have. So I think that people close bugs as not reproducible when they mean not enough information.
Oh, okay. That's a great clarification. Sorry that I found a new command in Chrome for tab management. Uh, needs more information in place of not reproducible.
Yeah. Yeah, we have that in FreeBSD, and I think that maybe other projects need that too.
Yeah.
The whole, to me, like the whole point of these closed tags are so that I don't have to sit here and wordsmith a whole paragraph in
Yeah.
order to like just be polite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's not time. Like there's really not time to wordsmith a whole paragraph.
I mean, I think there's some real merit to needs more information is very different from not reproducible. And if one of them is not listed there, the other one will get used for it.
Ah, yep, nicely put. Um, bold. I won't be looking at the OpenZFS options in the tickets right now, but great point. And one is very discouraging. One is like encouraging, kind of important. Um, okay, so the point is one to address be it in the run up to the summit and at the summit in some way. We discussed the reunion already. Daniel might make it out. Zelta, what was the question? I've been living and dying by Zelta for like 2 weeks now for cleaning up, or as I put it, separating a baby, which is biblical for a 40-year-old company that's had the owner's stuff intermixed with like everything, and then part of the company went elsewhere in good ways. And so I've got all kinds of techniques for comparing things, for moving things, for snapshotting things, for all the things. But Zelta has played a key role. Thank you, Daniel, for Zelta. Documentation. Keeps coming up over and over. I don't know if the summit's appropriate for that, but wow, gee, in a perfect world, it would be a 4-day documentation hackathon, but that's just me. Oh, actually, for what it's worth, hackathon topic, because, gee, people are adding like new features in Rust, which is great, but hackathon docs would be great if we can identify just some clear things to work on. Hackathon uh, during dev hackathon. So that would be the Tuesday of the event. There it is, noted. I'll make it red just because it keeps coming up. Moving on with this lightning round, hardware acceleration. Oh, Eva, are you still on the call? Yes, you are. There was a great recent recorded ZFS leadership call in which they discussed, given that modern CPUs are having like SHA 256 and possibly 512 acceleration, things like different checksums like Fletcher 4, I believe, or a newer one become more attractive and then good things can come out of that. So yes, you've commented, lots of experience. So that one is fascinating because you think of ZFS as like, gee, a file system and volume manager, but may not realize that countless obvious and not so obvious things are assisting it in doing what it does. And so let's explore that. And that, Zen 5, yep, thank you. Thank you for the facts in chat. So anyway, there's some interest there. That could be even a really quick lightning talk, you name it, discussion on here are the top 5 to 10 ways that your hardware is helping you in ZFS. And gee, that cheap $60, $30 QAT card may ridiculously help this workload. I'll just throw that in there. No, what I meant, I'll put that lower, but anyway, output. Eva,
I also have
Jan,
extra
yes.
QAT cards, and I have some Xeons that have QAT built into them, and then I have some Epics that have AVX 512.
Bingo.
And these are
And
all in
okay.
my office right here, and I'm looking at them. They're not like corporate ones, they're just my hardware. So if we need other people that are like, hey, I want to try this with QAT card too, I have extra QAT cards. So
One of the nice things about QAT is that they have, at least the better, more modern ones, really fast deflate, compression, and decompression engines.
yep. Also
which
Z
means
standard.
that, oh, I didn't know that.
Repeat
But
that,
at
Eva?
least the,
Or one at a time.
Uh,
Eva, you said what?
The new versions have Z standard.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, so, go ahead.
Yep.
Oh,
What?
wait, what?
but as far as I know, we can only use the QAT accelerators for decompression because their compression, while standards compliant, is not bit by bit identical to the software compression function as implemented in ZFS. I don't know how stable their implementation is if they are promising to maintain exactly that algorithm, but if they do, or at least across long enough time frames, maybe we need an algorithm within ZFS compression to mirror the QAT behavior so that we have not just deflate, but
Oh, interesting.
deflate QAT so that you can move the pool to a software without QAT and then use the software implementation for compression. Nothing has to change for decompression, but otherwise, you would have effectively pool corruption when you move off a QAT capable system.
There's
Because
also
then
there's a compatibility matrix we need to put a note
Mhm.
on in that part because most people are familiar with the Gen 1 and Gen 2 QAT cards, the PCI add-in ones.
Hmm.
And those are the
From
ones you
like
can get on eBay for cheap. But
Yeah.
the newer ones that are built into the Xeon CPUs themselves, those have different drivers and they have different support options for
Mhm.
what you've just described. So what we would want to do before going down any validation routes, which I agree are very important, is look at the matrix for the compatibility of different hashes, different compression and decryption and blah, 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 and make sure that the tests that are being run are compatible with the hardware matrix that maps also to the OpenZFS version matrix. So there's some
Mhm.
overlap there, and I have notes on all that stuff from like 2 years ago when I was doing a thing at a company I don't work on anymore. So, and also I hacked on a bunch of the Intel drivers. So, it's fun. I like all the QAT stuff quite a lot. But in any case, I think it's a great topic. And
Wow.
John, you bring up very good points about pool migration capacity or capability. So we should definitely put that as a line item. And I think it
Yeah.
would help a lot of people during the developer conference.
Yeah, we definitely don't want to go back to the bad old days where your storage pool was tied to a controller or effectively to a piece of hardware.
RAID
Um,
cards.
yeah,
Yay.
like, yay,
Yay.
your RAID
Definitely not.
layout is stored in the EEPROM of the dead RAID controller, which
Yep.
got fried.
Which is the
Oh,
same
your
version
fiber
according to the
channel
vendor,
array
but
is
it
now
isn't.
worthless because you
Yeah.
don't know how to reassemble it into a single RAID volume, right? Joking aside,
That's not a joke.
That's
and
real.
as
That's real.
Alexander brought up,
As guy sitting in data center.
yeah, as Alexander brought up, one of the problems, at least in the FreeBSD ports tree, when it comes to bug reporting, is that there's a conflict between, especially ports committers who want to get shit done now and want to patch first, and you have ports which accumulate upstream patches because for the one with a commit bit to the ports tree, it's easier that way to make the software do what it has to do than dealing with upstream. For FreeBSD base, it's kind of similar with OpenZFS that sometimes it may be tempting to kind of just start diverging from upstream again and have patches in the FreeBSD tree to get it fixed now instead of going through the OpenZFS issue tracker, testing it on Linux and so on. The same conflict exists here.
Okay. Okay. Well,
And
we've spurred the interest I desire. I'll leave it at that. That said, do we likely have a situation where, wow, my CPU might have, say, fast Z standard decompression only, and that's okay. We'll use that, but we'll have to do the compression itself in software, and that's okay. We're not, it won't, it can be transparent, and
So
you wait until your hardware has, say, hardware Z standard compression, and you don't lose sleep over it. Go ahead.
one of the things I'm afraid of will happen is that while both Intel P4 only CPUs and AMD Zen 4 and newer are technically AVX512 compliant, they have very different microarchitecture performance profiles for simple operations. Because especially with Zen 5, with the full implementation, you have effectively up to 4 vector ops, but a 2-cycle latency even for an addition. Whereas with Intel, you have only half the number of SIMD ports in the backend, so 2
Mm,
instead of 4, but you have a single cycle latency. So in one case, you're aiming for an effectively for a throughput of 2, in the other case of 8, which means you have to write your code a bit differently and basically at the easiest unroll it 4 times more, or at the worst completely change the implementation of your algorithm
okay.
to get the best performance out of each microarchitecture. And it doesn't
Nope.
help that the high core count Intel Xeons coming out right now are crippled without AVX512.
Okay. Okay. We've painted that picture. That's precisely as far as I wanted to highlight it right here, right now. Moving on. Stu, we have you to thank for, gee, most, I'll put in quotes, most ZFS problem diagnostics is still networking, and I can confirm that from my decade of TrueNAS support. We did touch on WAN replication challenges. That takes many forms. The Venn diagram is sort of emerging of like, well, this part is handled by hardware, this part is a networking issue, this part is just internal to the ZFS. There's Rod's PSA. As I mentioned on previous call, is that I have some notion of following the life of a packet, and I see, was it Provost or somebody's like Euro-based econ talk on like, oh, here's a packet going through packet filter. That might inspire it, but I'm so tired of people giving OSI layer diagrams that make no mention of packets, frames, IP addresses, MAC addresses, because they think, oh, this like arrogant high-level view of it is like plenty and it makes them look cool, but it really doesn't communicate the whole relationship of all these things. Any super quick comments on that, or should we just kind of leave it as, hey, there is interest and it fits into those above Venn diagrams on hardware acceleration, etc. Is a VFS operations pass through ZFS at the disk drivers? Jan, is that for this topic or the previous one?
Yes. So
This
the
topic.
equivalent talk would be the kind of VFS operations path through ZFS.
Oh, just one sec. Let me find a place for it before you continue. Doom,
Instead of
Go
life
ahead.
of a packet, it's the VFS operation instead of a packet for ZFS.
Funny you mentioned that. Hold tight. I have a
Or
link right in
block
front of me. Yes, go ahead and I'll
character
flip out
device,
of
yeah.
here.
If you
Okay.
have a volume, it would be kind of the character device API. Well,
Oh gosh. Hold on.
where in FreeBSD terminology, when you're going below the geom layer, and ZFS takes over on a volume. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Formatting.
I
Okay.
guess the relevant operation would be what happens on a read, write, open, create, and so on. So yeah, it's a bit more complicated for a file system than for the network stack, I'm afraid.
Okay.
And but
on-
this would be a really valuable talk for anyone wanting to learn about ZFS and getting an understanding. And I would definitely want to watch that talk if anyone qualified is prepared to give it.
Here is a recent discussion on exactly that related to 2.4, where Tim, brilliant, awesome, kind person, and Rob discuss, say, the how much is handled by, I believe, let me get the exact question. The sequence is a mess here, but how much ZFS does behind the scenes, permissions, ACLs, and all that, and how much is purely in the OS's POSIX layer? Is that on that topic, Jan?
That's at
Or
the
that's yet
outer edge
another
of that
related.
topic.
Okay.
It belongs under that topic, but it wouldn't be the most relevant operations I think people would want to learn about. I think
Sure.
the two most relevant people would want to learn about is read and write
Yep.
as the most common operations you're hopefully doing on your file system.
No, in a production environment, faculties matter more than, and it goes back to auditing. We want to bring that red
Oh,
herring.
yes. Yes. Well played. Well played. Go ahead.
That ties everything back together as well. So I I wouldn't exclude that.
ACLs
No,
also
no,
matter for things like if you're using stuff like CIFS.
Oh, you're guessing where I've spent my recent days. Yes. Cool. Okay, let's capture this. Docs are killing me here. Okay, so there's the god-awful link, but here's the text I want to have with the link. There's the killing of the formatting, and there is the copy of the link. Whew, thank you for your patience. Boom. Then, okay, those are separate topics, but of course overlapping. And maybe this whole conference is one giant Venn diagram. We just push disks around in it, for lack of a better term. Pass through the who handles it, ZFS or the host OS, for lack of a better term. Okay, the interest is there. Think about what that can look like in practice. And Jan, did I hear the words? I'd love to see that talk by someone who knows what they're talking about.
yes.
And so the operation. Okay. Fine. Y'all get the benefit of red because we have some interest on the call. Moving on, oh gosh, multi-protocol sharing. We've already slipped that in the Venn diagram implicitly, but I'll just leave the words out there. Please think about it as we maybe wrap up for now and sleep on these. Aggressive global uniqueness. There have been some great discussions on, be it jail calls, be it beehive calls, be it you name it. It's not ZFS per se, but it comes up all the time because we want everything to be unique and non-conflicting, be it snapshot names, be it data set names, be it disk IDs, be it disk labels, you name it. Think about if that is something you want to elaborate on. Early on, talking to Alan Jude, OpenZFS at universities, it sounds like Garrett cannot return this year, but I'll ping him again. There is like Chris Cyberman, etc. So all sorts of folks, Snowflake IDs. We talked about Snowflake IDs, I believe, yesterday. Many topics. I was bit in this last 72 hours on nested data sets that an Asamba environment will work when they work and not work when they don't work. And gee, I've seen it very much a problem in NFS environments where the repeating inodes all starting at like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 confuses the heck out of NFS. If someone is an expert here, please say so. I've already checked on it. Check some algorithms and hardware acceleration for the Venn diagram. So think about that. And from a recent discussion, the NOP right section of the wiki was interesting based on the aforementioned AVX 512 acceleration of checksums, blah, 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 blah. All things ZFS diff, I think people are not using it to the extent they could when making sense of a situation. A few months back, I talked about finding hotspots where users are spending their time writing, and ZFS diff was very helpful. And I think, Jan, you had some brilliant suggestion of either using rsync or something else to, or maybe it was the whole idea of using ZFS diff in the first place to find right hotspots. So
Yep.
I followed like a year of traffic and was like, oh, these directories get the most activity. And it was not hard to do if you just know the simple syntax. So throwing the topic out there, we've had some great discussions as recently as yesterday on CPU pinning, interrupts, affinity, NUMA, and how it impacts, say, lots of disks, lots of flash disks that are on an on a PCI channel, blah, 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 blah.
And why operating systems decide that, they want hierarchy balance, even though if it destroys your system.
Systems how about this? I'll emphasize, make terrible decisions.
Terrible decisions on our behalf.
Yeah,
The,
I wonder when
on
we
how
will
should we,
start.
that was Affinity, where I think the OS just said, hey, we're going to pounce stuff around for you because.
IRQ balance. It's the worst
Thank
thing
you.
that ever came out.
Yes, eventually we'll have to just dedicate CPU cores to Flash.
And
Like
funny you mentioned that, seeing that on your nifty new ARM64 systems, you can have like 256 cores, and if you have like 100 disks, suddenly, wow, wait, you can be Candyman handing out cores to everybody. Yay. Okay. Oh gosh, you're putting chats in there. Feel free to drop those chats in the discussion if they're on topic, because I'm multitasking. Uh, Ava Bexcran might be sending a BIOS to get that system updated because I believe BMC can only be done through the web and it's absolutely failing. I don't know if it's still under warranty, but let's have that conversation in parallel. Thank you for your patience, everyone. ZFS properties. I noticed that being forced to add properties with ZFS allow is great for understanding the role because it works once you finally get the mix right. So I'll just throw that out there. A lightning talk on right amplification, the good and the bad and the ugly would be perhaps interesting. We've touched already on special allocation classes, device classes, especially in relationship to D-rate, etc. You name it. Trim, discard, and hole punching. While it's not strictly ZFS related, every ZFS user might have some good, bad, ugly stories relating to it.
I have a right
Yes, please.
amplification
Ooh, yes, do
story.
tell. Ooh, yes.
I can't say specifics, but let's just
That's
say
fine.
that
Oh,
there's a company called Micron, and they sold many thousands of SSDs, and they had a problem with right amplification and garbage collection algorithms that took down 25% of the internet one year.
ooh,
Yay!
yeah.
And then this company decided to stop using Micron.
25% of the internet, that's a non-trivial number.
It's pretty big.
That's
Yeah.
admirable.
Yeah, well played.
I know, right? It's like, wow, that's a big big problem. Mhm.
I'll even try to spell
Does
select.
anyone remember the time to live bug in Intel SSDs? Like 3 years of uptime or so, and then they all simultaneously brick themselves.
328 days. Kernel 2636.
You boy,
No,
stars.
2632. Sorry. Yeah.
War stories. Okay, that might be a topic. So even if it's not directly in
That's a
ZFS
That's a bartending topic.
yes. Okay. And then 328 days. Kernel what? Two
Locked,
point.
completely locked out.
And what was the kernel version?
2.3 2.6.32.
2.6.32. Do not ask Stu how/why he remembers those exact versions. Okay, cool. Then there's always a place for story time. Story time's awesome. And it's a tradition at the summit. So that said, trim, discard, hole punching, I guess that was from there. I'll bring that up just so it's closer in context. Sometimes that's a ZFS thing. Sometimes that's a broken hardware thing that happens to have ZFS on it. Da, 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 da. Just today, I jumped back into this. Hopefully, I'll have some news next week. Copy file range came up and atomic dedupe. Is that At what point are we talking a 2.4 feature? At what point are we talking about just things that have never changed? Jan, did you have something to do with that?
So one of the things in my wish list would be to have a copy file range as a kind of deduplication hint. So right now with copy file range, you can almost do offline dedupe so that you scan your file system, find the duplicated ranges in your files, and then use copy file range to dedupe your files without the uh, costs of having to keep the traditional dedupe table in memory all the time and query it on every write.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the problem is that if you have a concurrent writer to this file as you do a copy file range, you have a race condition. And because Unix doesn't have mandatory locking, you cannot prevent someone who does not do opportunistic locking on the file because it's just someone doing a cut, CP, or whatever on the file. So what we would need is something like attempt to dedupe this if possible. If there's a modification, just tell me that it failed. So kind of an opportunistic approach. Like try to dedupe this if it matches. If it doesn't match anymore because someone changed something, just tell me. Give me an error on the operation that you couldn't dedupe it. And of course, the other kind of thing to make a copy file range based deduplication usable as a deduplication scheme would be to make it persist across ZFS send receive, because otherwise it's a great fucking time bomb. Like, oh, I have this great dedup factor. I need a fifth as much storage space. Yeah, until you try to recover from your backup.
Oh, interesting. You said
Because
make it persistent for ZFS send receive, or
so
what?
ZFS send does not preserve block cloning,
Ah, right.
which means you have your all flash fast database server, whatever,
Yep.
and it's half full. You have a dedupe factor, I don't know, let's be a bit crazy and say 5. It's so you really take advantage of dedupe for some stuff.
Yeah.
And your backup is some hybrid pool with hundreds of terabytes, if not petabytes of storage, so you don't notice it. And then your server dies, and you try to recover from your backups, and suddenly your pool is full, and your data doesn't fit on the server anymore because, yeah, the deduplication got removed on ZFS send.
Hey,
As I
hopefully I'm
understand, that's
capturing
not
this
easy to
accurately.
fix. It's kind of a trade-off they made to make it cheaper to do this block cloning so
Mm-hmm.
that it's faster and requires less memory. But yeah,
Okay, wow.
I'm wary about having too high of a dedup factor because if you receive that system back, all your deduplication is gone.
Yeah. Um, people, you've reminded me of this sort of people think they want some offline cleansing slash instead of scrub, it's cleanse. It is an offline defragmentation slash deduplication. You just say, hey, the pool's going to be offline all weekend. We're going to just do our best all weekend while no one's touching it. We
Um,
push it around, and could you do that for your backup such that your primary is beautifully deduplicated, but then thanks to copy file range, your backup is not. But you could then turn on, isolate your backup for a moment and crunch
I
on it
guess
for days and
um,
then say, hey, we're back. Woohoo. Although it then may not return in a clean, small state. Go ahead.
so.
Thinking out loud.
So another good use case for this kind of copy file range uh, as a hint. So
Yeah.
please try to copy file range this, especially with could be having the same source and destination and asking the file system effectively to rewrite the file in place. Within ZFS, that would be a chance to rebalance across the disks without having race conditions. So let's say you grow a pool several times
Yep.
and now your pool is unbalanced. If you could tell your pool to pretty please rewrite that block, but beneath the VFS level so that it looks like, oh, the M time is the same, the A time and so
Of
on,
course.
everything is the same.
Yep.
Just the representation changes. Yes, it will grow the snapshots because it has to without block pointer rewriting, but it also would be a way to securely, while the system is writable, rebalance the pool because you
Yeah.
don't want to do the tar pipe tar swap directories dance on a live system.
Right. I said off fine. Okay, moving on. That definitely got some interest. Here we go. I'll just leave it as that. And I did not specifically say block pointer rewriting, as Matt described as changing your
That's
pants
bullshit.
while running. I know.
Yeah, exactly. But all of what I described would
Yep.
work without that. So it's
Okay.
all within the realm of the possible.
So moving on, lightning round. Both you, Andrew, and Gibran, and your colleague Mark have all been pounding your heads against Windows Server 2022. That is the least exciting topic in a ZFS circle, but that's what the real world looks like. So think about if there's something super tangible and of interest, key point to developers, that it's like, it handles this one thing poorly. What if we could improve upon that? There, I said it. We touched on the benchmarking thoroughly. Thank you all for helping on that. So yeah, I sure found that for compliance, you name it, desktop broadly, I'll say in quotation marks, desktop integration would be great insofar as if a user could see what happens to be a ZFS data set shared by Samba, but they don't know it, having them like right click on a seemingly empty directory and decrypt it would be awesome, but I have no idea what that would look like in practice. In the discussion, I mentioned there are a whole bunch of known tools to date as of earlier this year on like Mac desktop integration and pool import and stuff. So there's a seed to plant. Something foundation stuff. What could the OpenZFS effort look like beyond a summit and hosting and you name it? I'll keep mentioning the idea of a Tank Dozer Trinity reunion. That is, who has a copy of the Blu-ray Matrix films, and we perhaps with the nifty new projector and screen enjoy those with the nifty new sound system. Oh gosh, lots of parallel discussions are going on with AV topics. Don't worry about them at the moment. I dug up the notes from after last year. Thank you, Alfred, once again. You saved our butts on a few things and made some new abilities possible. The HA Promised Land, we actually touched on that in clustering earlier. Thank you, Eva and company. Do watch the jails called earlier this week. Everyone thinks they want a cluster, but they want some easy button that skips all the hard math. Well, deal with it. And Alexander, you're still on the call. We've talked about the confusion of the ZFS-D destroy. Maybe that manual page got updated. Do you recall if we made any progress there? But we all confused ourselves, and hopefully some good has come out of that. Yes.
I recall that conversation. It did not get updated, if I remember correctly. Let me look at it real quick.
Great, it's there. Awesome. You are one of our subject matter experts on that kind of manual page documentation. We thank you for it. Oh, and the inside baseball of subtitles on the videos. I thank you for the self kick in the pants to revisit that. We haven't heard from Steve lately, but he was quite excited about clever per file snapshotting for legacy applications that have like intermixed temp files, cache files, and garbage along with important data. So if you're listening, Steve, take a peek at that. I don't know if anyone has that. Jan, looking at you, do you have that nifty new green MikroTik storage appliance that somehow is defaulting to Btrfs, but has like 100 gig networking and all NVMe, etc.
So it's
Whoa.
basically their top of the line router with flash attached.
Yes.
So it's using the same CPU as
Oh,
the MikroTik router with the
they moved
same
it.
number in it.
Okay, cool.
Um, so it definitely won't be easy to bring up another operating system on the hardware,
Correct.
just because you have to deal with so much unusual peripherals.
Yeah.
Um, of course, it would be kind of neat to see at least a normal Linux distribution working on it, and maybe one day FreeBSD with
Yeah.
ZFS.
Oh, I've been pursuing that for over 20
But
years,
on
but
the other hand, you have other high density one use service, and as if you throw that much storage and networking at it, the the energy saving of having an ARM64 CPU in your server are not important because you have so much
okay.
other components running through your power budget that
Okay.
just put a Ryzen Pro with ECC RAM in it or something like it. You get the same throughput out of your CPU, both for compute and I/O. It's probably 10 watts higher idling and 5 watts higher under load or something like that.
Okay.
But who cares if you have 24 SSDs and 100 gig NIC?
Well, there you go. Well, I'm going to raise the off-topic flag, but it's a fascinating piece of hardware, and if you can pull it off without much effort, great. Copy link. It sounds like I need to update that link. It's cached
I
correctly,
think I
but
just did it in the um,
yeah,
chat.
doc is edited. Thank you for that. Let's.
I'm still a bit confused what
Oh,
MikroTik's goal is here because their router has maybe a nice network operating system
oh,
for
maybe not.
someone willing to tinker with it.
Okay. It's to
But
get attention from Jeff Geerling followers for people, home labbers who think they can connect their coffee maker to it. I don't know.
Ubiquity is doing the same thing.
Okay, there you go.
Ubiquiti just said, hey, here's our own Linux distribution. Have fun.
He is doing the same thing. So, do they ship an OS you can bring to the table yourself? Thing.
Ubiquiti just released a Ubiquiti operating system
Oh
for
dear.
servers, which
UBOS?
is, yes, UBOS or something like that. And they took the interesting step of saying, no, you don't have to run it on our hardware
Oh, right.
or whatever.
Okay.
You can run it on whatever it supports. It's a Linux distro.
That
But
topic
we
matters if you can
heavily,
bring it to the summit. Bring a sample and we'll play with it. We'll break it for you. How about that?
Okay, I've
Yes.
pulled up the log, and it
Yes.
seems that MNRX
Man, all right.
apparently saw our talk or is one of our people, and it's MNRX at users.noreply@github.com, so we don't know who it is, but
Okay.
they have a Wednesday, February 5th, clarified documentation of ZFS destroy on snapshots. There it is.
Cool. Uh, uh, Drop a link in chat if you have it. No worries if you don't. But did it get committed?
Yeah, it's committed. I've got it as 0BE1DA
Oh gosh. Okay.
26
Okay. That
CB
been.
4F in the OpenZFS repo.
didn't we
Oh,
also have the topic of zpool import accepting an undocumented option?
maybe. Anyway,
And nobody really knows why, what it once did, because it just does.
hold on. Zpool import of an undocumented option.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
in the minutes.
Oh gosh, good. Drop it in there. The doc is fully writable. Go for it. Then let's finish up this lightning round, and we have all plenty to chew on. Jan, you mentioned PAM-ZFS keys. There seems to be an Oracle one, but not a one
So
outside of them.
FreeBSD has the PAM module, but not the documentation.
Documentation. It's right there. Okay, noted. Yep.
So there's no main page for this PAM module.
Okay.
But to make matters worse, the current FreeBSD 14 and BSD install, so the
Yep.
installer, will ask you if you create a ZFS installation, do you want to enable dataset encryption on your home dir? Which, if you do, will not enable the PAM module. So your home directory is ZFS dataset encrypted on its own dataset, and the keys will not be loaded when you log in.
Okay.
So you will have a home dir mount point, which is empty except for dot and dot dot.
Yeah.
You can't do anything with it. I don't even know if it has a .zfs entry.
Okay.
So the dataset is mounted, but shows up as completely unmodifiable and empty.
That sounds like a bug.
Yes.
And that will burn.
It's a really nice footgun,
Oh,
especially
gosh.
when you try to SSH into the system and you authorize key file, which you put in there during the post-installation phase, right? Is
Save it for
now
the
not
installer
readable.
talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Not a ZFS topic, but it is, but it isn't. So yeah. Okay. Moving on.
ZFS dataset encryption is a ZFS topic.
No question. It's just not for. It's one to note, and if there's something for the summit, great. Percentage notation, maybe Alexander, you brought that up. I'm surprised you can't delete snapshots with, destroy them rather, with percent range, such as life. Andrew, you brought up the warning about no redundancy. We had a great discussion. I should have the date there, but I don't. But if you have more thoughts on that or progress, fantastic. We talked about that.
Dude, I feel so bad. I'm about to do this. I have no choice.
Oh, yeah, well, a single disk ZFS beats most other file systems either way, so yep. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's not that. It's like the date hasn't been bumped. We had to go through all that exercise, or I had to go through all that exercise to figure out what had happened because the date hasn't been bumped on ZFS Destroy Man page since 2022. So I'm about to do the most annoying thing that everybody hates.
Yeah.
And send them a pull request just to bump the date to February 5th of 2025 when this guy touched it last.
Okay. Asking to bump the date. And I'll just make a sad face and leave that to the reader. Okay.
Dude, so sad.
That's very sad. Okay, moving on, and I think we can skip most of these. There was question of BRT copy. Blah, blah, blah. Jan, your notion of a declarative idempotent storage description language that comes up. Back to Steve's light cloning, which I think I touched on. Funny link to the headline alone of the day. Cluster FS tried to kill my career. Some notion of object storage that did not get much interest last year. That surprised me. Jan, I'll put you here with the storage description language. Please think about if there's anything new to report. Scaling in general, Dan had some great observations on how to best delete a bunch of snapshots. Using a range would paralyze the system. Xargs can be your friend. Range versus Xargs. I'll just leave it at that. If someone's interested, yay. Tracing ZFS with FIO results, that has some definite overlap, but not necessarily overlap with the workflow replay. DWatch. Oh, DWatch.
I have an idea how to do the deleting lots of snapshots better.
Yes? What you got? Let me guess, channel program?
Run one channel program to find out the snapshot, pipe it into Xargs running another channel program for each batch, so that you do like 10 or 100 edit per batch so you have a read-only channel program. It writes the snapshots to be deleted to stand it out, and then you run another sync channel program. You potentially have to write out the whole answer to a file first. I don't know if you can have a sync channel program running while there's a read channel program running.
Okay.
I never tested that.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of consuming this in batches maybe faster than doing a ZFS destroy for each. Because yeah,
Cool. Love it. Ship it. Although I think uh, uh, yeah, okay.
there's nothing to chip. It's like less than 50 lines of shell.
Brilliant. Tracing, I don't even know. That's somewhere in the doc. I requested the rename policy property. I should follow up on that. And what does that look like in the real world, such that I have lots of pools that I could only rename by taking them offline or ideally during a simple reboot. Anyway, that may need a whole bunch of loader work. And we've touched on this in the context of be it audit environments, you name it. But wow, if anyone can list all data sets and see things like individuals with a big old directory of HR violations by month or something that no other user has, they may raise an eyebrow. Thank you very much. So Greg hasn't been able to join lately, but he was definitely championing that topic, and his talk last year was super helpful because Cumulo does a whole lot of great, oh, boom, wrong one, a whole bunch of great auditing and goodness that makes his auditors happy. And that reminds me about the book I picked up. And so thank you, Stu, for pointing me in that direction. So I'm going to make sure we're on the right date here. Oh, no, that wasn't an idea. There is lots to discuss. Anything at this point, I'd rather say, hey, could you just please think about topics, think about what we've sort of discussed to date and assigned, for lack of a better term. And I'm so lost in the doc now. I was doing great. One incorrect page up and bad things happen. But I think thank you for that brilliant segue earlier back to our regular programming. I believe Eva did that, which got us into the benchmark, which got us into the summit topics. I will reemphasize if someone knows the exact under the hood intricacies of nested data sets and where it can make other subsystems unhappy. ZFS does the right thing, but Samba, NFS, and friends get cranky. Deep breath. So, that all said, our next meeting would be the 4th, 2025-08. No, 4. Oh, wrong slot. Anyway, thank you, everyone. Please chime in if you've got stuff, but I've said what I wanted to say. If that's not obvious, I've done the doc cleanup I've been aspiring to do for, a solid 6 months or more. And I hope that helps channel guide all things forward for the upcoming summit. It is, so what is that, 21:54 UTC? So final thoughts, questions, topics, ideas. I'll shut up. I've covered what I want to cover. Well then, who would like the honors?
Like and subscribe, anyone crazy enough to still listen to us yabbing away.
Well put, well put. I hope to see everyone at the summit. It is October 25th through 28th. It pains me, Eva, that you had to step away to do a job interview, but hey, that kept your career moving. That's very important and probably helped get you to the point you're at for the awesome conversations today. Thank you, everyone. Take care.